Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, we're going to be doing something a bit different. One of my favorite podcasts to listen to rather than create is Brain Software by Chris Thompson and Mike Mandel, who as part of their podcast, normally start the show with a random word generator that generates 3 different nouns purely with the purpose of trying to see that element of creativity that comes from linking something random to something else. So what I thought in terms of, as you'll, if you listen to the show regularly, probably know that the vast majority of my hypnosis sessions as part of the podcast actually come from real life clients. But I wanted to kind of throw something else into the mix that would be slightly different and almost keep me on my toes a little bit. So this is going to be a random hypnosis session. I have no idea what it is going to be about or the themes. And the reason for that is that I'm actually right now in front of a random word generator, a random destination generator, and a random emotion generator. And what I'm going to do is use these 3 different websites to generate things that I can't predict right now, and then build a hypnosis session around these particular words, destinations, and emotions, and just see what happens. This is also being streamed for my YouTube channel as well. So if you want to, if you listen to this on the podcast and you want to get a sense of what's actually happening right now, what you can do is look at the YouTube equivalent of this, and you'll actually see me sharing a screen where these random words are being generated in real time. So let's give this a go. So the display capture, I think I have to move up. Okay, so we're doing this right now. I'm going to bring up the random word generator. Actually, I'm going to start off with the destination. And the reason for this is that I'm going to use an induction linked to a destination. And I'm on a website called earthroulette.com. I'm going to click spin. And this has come up with Kathmandu in Nepal. Kathmandu is known for sightseeing. Obviously, it's very close to Everest. It's the largest city and capital of Nepal and the namesake of the Kathmandu Valley, once thought to be the fabled and inaccessible Shangri-La. Kathmandu is a fast-growing spot catering to a wide range of holiday types and budgets. So, yeah, obviously very mountainous, very traditional. You've got the kind of unusual looking temples and things like that. And I've got the map of where it is and different photos and things like that. So yeah, so this is going to be part of the induction. So Kathmandu, Nepal is going to be the initial location. Next we have the random emotion generator. I've got 3 emotions. Now, obviously we want these to be resourceful in some way, which is why I've put 3. But if they are unresourceful, then we're just going to fuse that into the actual hypnosis session as a starting point to perhaps reframe an unresourceful emotion for a more resourceful one. So I'm going to click the word randomize. This website, by the way, is called perchance.org/emotion. So I'm going to click randomize. Okay, so this is interesting because we've got three emotions that most people would consider destructive in some way. We've got guilt, shame, and rage. So guilt, shame, and rage. So there isn't really anything super resourceful, but one of the belief systems that I have is that any emotion is resourceful in the right context. So for example, guilt. If guilt enables you to learn an important lesson in your life and raise a standard or make a new decision, or to not do something that isn't that, good for society, for example, that's not a bad thing. Shame, again, can also be useful for that. And even rage, in the right context, could actually be resourceful. So this hypnosis session is going to be starting out in Kathmandu, Nepal. It's going to utilize the emotions of guilt, shame, and rage. And then the final thing that we're going to do is generate random nouns. And you can tell this is completely random because I would certainly not choose these by choice. We've got cruel, weave, and bad. Cruel, weave, and bad. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back onto the video for those people watching on YouTube, is start the hypnosis session and just utilize effectively that location, those emotions and those words into a hypnosis session, and really just see where my unconscious, my creativity and just kind of experience comes from. There is no client involved here. It's just generating a hypnosis session entirely from random words and random ideas. So find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and let's just see where this hypnosis session takes us. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in, imagine breathing in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. Breathing in relaxation on the inward breath, then on the outward breath. Just allow tension, stress, perhaps even anxiety to leave your body as you breathe out. That's right. Going deeper and deeper. Relaxed. As your physical body relaxes, I want you to imagine that your mind is becoming more and more alert. In fact, use the power of your imagination, the bridge between conscious and unconscious, to take you on a journey. Imagine wherever you are right now, that your physical body stays where it is, and you just start to float upwards, out of your own body, almost seeing yourself there underneath you, as your imagination starts floating upwards, about to go on a journey. Perhaps you're leaving the room that you're in, the building, going up into the sky. Just imagine that you've got the ability to have superhero abilities, the ability to fly incredibly fast to wherever you want to in the world. And right now, what you need is a period of reflection, introspection, to really utilize perhaps the darker side of your personality. To look through the shadows and see what changes may be useful in your life now. As you feel yourself floating, hovering perhaps above your building, imagine that you're flying to a specific location. I want you to imagine that you are flying all the way to the mountains in Asia. Find yourself flying over seas, oceans, miles and miles of land, until you start getting closer and closer to the small country neighbouring China, a small country known as Nepal. I want you to get a sense that you're getting closer and closer, and even though you know that it's getting colder, for some reason you don't feel the cold. And I want you to imagine there on the distance you can see ancient temples nestled in the city of Kathmandu, in the foothills of the incredible mountain ranges. As you touch down, I want you to get a sense that you are far, far away from your life, your problems, anything that has been bothering you. Maybe back in your real life, there are things that have happened that you still feel the echoes of guilt, shame, perhaps even rage. But all the way out here in Nepal, you can be aware of those emotions, but feel that they are very, very far away. I want you to get a sense that here in this old-fashioned city, far away from modern civilizations, there is an old temple that catches your attention. You can see it with its unique shape. Echoes of ancient Chinese architecture, but not quite Oriental. Levels of almost partial pyramids, decreasing in height as it goes several stories high. Ornate, intricate patterns of brickwork, wooden beams supporting these strange levels of decreasing sizes of roofs as it gets higher and higher. And just imagine that you walk into that temple, and for some reason, even though this is a busy city, this temple is completely empty. No one there at all. There is wooden floors, and you get a sense that this is a place of deep introspection and thought. You couldn't know how many people over the centuries have meditated, prayed, reflected, given thought in this building. All you know is that right now, this space and this time is for you. Perhaps you can see gold statues around, artwork, But I want you to find a place, a quiet place in this temple where there's a small pond. You can see a slight movement on the surface of the water. Imagine you have stones, small stones. As you throw the stones into the water, the surface ripples and then returns to that very still-looking surface of the pond. You find yourself going deeper and deeper relaxed. As it occurs to you, any emotion that you experience is like the ripples on the surface of a pond. Real ripples, movement, sometimes significant movement on the surface, and yet it can always return to that calm, still surface. If you think of life's events as being the equivalent of stones being thrown into the surface of that pond, things happen in life, and it feels sometimes overwhelming in the moment. And yet, sometimes hours, days, or weeks later, from the chaos of the moment, things are still again. All emotions are temporary. And inside this temple, staring at this ornate pond, I want you to start thinking about sometimes the cruel experiences that have happened in your life. There are things that have happened to you that you didn't ask for, didn't deserve, that happened to you through no fault of your own. As much as we like to believe that there are good people in the world, sometimes good people do bad things, and sometimes there are just people that do bad things. And as you start to think of those bad experiences, cruel moments, I want you to think at some level that you've learned the lessons from these experiences. Somehow, in some way, you've become stronger as an individual, more resilient, mentally tougher perhaps. I want you to get a sense that life is not fair. And while we can't change what's happened to us, we can change the meaning that we give to what's happened to us. Those cruel things, those bad moments, sometimes offer a glimmer of insight or value from even the very worst of moments. I want you to get a sense that if you are able to find a tiny bit of value from those bad, cruel moments, then it means that your unconscious has the ability to start looking for those good, valuable, precious resources, insights, wisdom, all by itself. Perhaps, as you look into that surface of the pond, you can remember a younger version of you, perhaps days, weeks, years, or even decades ago, where something cruel or bad happened to you. And maybe maybe as a result of those cruel and bad things, you felt angry, even rage, perhaps guilt. At some level, it's not unusual for humans to feel guilty when bad things happen because they start thinking that perhaps at some level they deserved for this to happen. Or perhaps they're not in a position to ask for help or tell anyone, and they just carry that shame with them. I want you to see that younger version of you that maybe is still holding on to that rage, that guilt, that shame. And I want you to imagine going back in time and visiting them in a quiet place where they're all by their own. And I want you to tell them the words that perhaps no one's ever told them, particularly not back then when it mattered most. I want you to tell them that it was cruel, it was bad, it wasn't deserved, but also that they have the strength to move on from that moment. That guilt does not belong to them. That shame does not belong to them. And that rage, that anger, tell them. Tell them that that rage and anger, while justified, is like drinking poison and hoping that someone else gets sick. Tell them that it's okay for them to let go of those emotions now. And help them. Help them with the years that have perhaps passed since that moment to understand that there was some strange amount of value that came from that moment. Maybe it made them more prepared, stronger, more resilient in some way. Tell them that whatever has happened, but it doesn't benefit them to carry that guilt, that shame, that rage anymore, that they can let go of it. And instead, they get to focus on being the best version of them that they can be. Rather than holding on to that guilt, that shame that can hold them back and stop them from being their very best. What if instead this fuels them to pursue their passions, their dreams, their goals like never before? Perhaps to take some kind of meaning from that moment and understand that what's happened to other people, what's happened to them, isn't always fair and can be cruel. But what's worse is when these bad things happen, that people become less of who they really are. And I want you to give that younger version of you perhaps a hug or a handshake or something comforting, so that they accept there is no shame for them to hold, no guilt for them to harvest, no rage for them to hold on to anymore. But instead, you are kindling a passion, an energy, a motivation to pursue all those things that perhaps you daredn't believe because it was such a big powerful, compelling dream or idea. And I want you to paint a picture for them as to what's possible in their life. And in doing so, notice their facial expressions have changed, their body language has changed. They've gone from perhaps a broken, angry version of you to fundamentally different, perhaps even more positive. But also let them know that all these things are not good or bad. Everything is useful in the right context. That rage is useful if someone is violating your values in an extreme way. Shame and guilt can be useful if you're feeling something as a direct result of choices that you've made that perhaps don't align with your values. Then the guilt or the shame provide opportunities for reflection and refinement, to change standards, to become a better version of yourself. The only guilt and shame that's not worth holding on to, if it's a result of things that have happened to you by cruel, bad people, experiences that you didn't deserve or need. Hug that younger version of yourself just one last time and let them know that this isn't easy, but that they have the resources to cope, to get better, to have more impact. And all of this is just in your imagination, this visiting a younger version of yourself while you're in a state of reverie, looking into that pond. Find yourself back there in the temple and throw one final stone onto the surface of that pond in front of you, and realize that the changes that have taken place back in that younger version of you are like ripples on the surface of that water. That a change can't take place earlier in your life without ripples affecting your past, your present, all the way into your future. That you have the ability to weave these new insights, emotions, clarity of what your purpose is and how to utilize your gifts, is weaving into every element of your life. Your dreams, your goals, your plans. You get a sense that the future is becoming more optimistic, more positive. That perhaps you arrived here carrying the echoes of guilt, shame and rage as a result of cruel, bad actions that weren't your fault. But you get a sense that you're leaving this temple in the city of Kathmandu, there in the shadow of Mount Everest, with new ways of thinking that will weave its way into all different parts of your life, giving you a more positive, beneficial, empowering future. And it's time to leave the temple, walking away from the pond, walking over that wooden floor in that ancient temple, back out on the streets, getting a sense that you're so far away from your real life, but I wonder what your real life would look like with this new state of optimism and positivity. Get a sense of what the next few days would be like, weeks would be like, years would be like, as you weave that optimism and positivity into your future. And in doing so, you can't weave that resource of optimism into your future without you thinking more brightly about your future. Goals and plans seem a bit more desirable, achievable, appealing. You are unlocking latent resources that were always there, but perhaps were clouded by echoes of guilt and shame and rage that have now melted away in the same way that some of the snow caps in these mountains around you melt in the spring and summer months, allowing new resources to flourish in the spring and summer of your life when they couldn't be seen in the autumn and winter of your life. As you breathe in that fresh, clean air, I want you to get a sense that all of this are just ideas weaved into your imagination. Thoughts within a thought, ideas within an idea, dreams within a dream. And that actually you're listening to your voice and my voice right now, firmly in the present. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that you're in your own physical body right now. And very soon I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken with more resourcefulness and less anger, shame and guilt because you don't need it anymore. Weaving that optimism and positivity into your life. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.